Oh God, she's still breathing. Henry Walker, an aging former Marine, freezes at the sight before him. In the frost-covered depths of the forest, a young female ranger hangs upside down from a tree, her body bruised, blood dripping onto the white snow below. Beside him, his massive gray horse, Atlas, stamps its hooves fiercely, as if ready to tear apart the rope strangling her life. Henry cuts the rope, lowering her gently. But at that very moment, a click echoes from the darkness, as if a predator has been waiting for this exact second. What lurks in the shadows? And why has a ranger been so brutally tortured? The winter sun sets slowly behind Wyoming's gray stone ridges, painting the sky a mottled sea of coppery red. Wind howls through the pine forests, whistling like the endless call of wandering spirits. At the far end of the Bridger-Teton Range, in an isolated valley few dare to tread, an old figure hunches before a weathered wooden porch, his eyes fixed on the horizon, sinking into the dying embers of the day. This is Henry Walker, 63 years old, his face etched with harsh wrinkles carved deeper by war than by time. Scars trace along his jawline. His gray eyes have seen so much death they no longer dream of peace. For 10 years, he's lived in Wyoming, far from cities, far from people, keeping only the silence and this vast sky. Beside him, Atlas, his towering gray horse, stamps slowly, its shadow stretching like a moving boulder. Atlas is unlike any horse in these parts. Nearly 2 meters tall, weighing almost a ton, its body is solid as forged stone. At first glance, it exudes a quiet power, both majestic and fierce, as if carrying the weight of the mountains themselves. 10 years ago, Henry found Atlas as a colt, abandoned in a bankrupt ranch outside Cheyenne. He almost walked away, but the horse's eyes, deep and silent like his own, as if it too had fought its own unspoken war. Henry took it with him, raised it, trained it. Atlas became the last companion to stay by his side. On freezing winter nights, Atlas's strong breaths in the stable were the only heartbeat reminding Henry the world hadn't entirely withered away. Henry's life in the valley is simple: chopping wood at dawn, hunting rabbits at noon, cooking thick stew in an old cast-iron pot by night. Atlas is his legs through deep snow valleys, through canyons no vehicle could reach. Most importantly, Atlas mirrors Henry's solitude. The horse's silence is the only conversation he needs. But deep in his memory, Henry can't bury everything. A former Marine, he fought in Iraq, Afghanistan, he led a platoon into Fallujah. There, his entire unit was wiped out in an ambush. He alone survived. Since returning, he's carried the survivor's burden. Every time he closes his eyes, he hears his comrades screaming in a sea of fire. That's why he chose Wyoming, a land harsh enough to punish himself, quiet enough to drown out war's echoes. That evening, Henry sits on the porch, a cigarette glowing red in his hand. Atlas lowers its head beside him, snorting steady breaths. In the distance, wolves howl in waves, their eerie calls echoing sharply. But Henry isn't afraid. Wolves are just wolves. What haunts him has always been human. Suddenly, Atlas's ears prick up, its head jerks, dark eyes flashing with alertness. Henry knows this signal. The horse never overreacts. Something moves in the forest. He stubs out his cigarette, stands, grabs the old hunting rifle leaning against the porch. The wind shifts, carrying a faint but distinct smell of blood, familiar to anyone who's walked a battlefield. Henry steps down, boots sinking into soft snow, each breath turning to mist. Atlas follows, silent as a massive shadow. In those next few minutes, an event will forever change the lives of 3 souls: a veteran, a giant horse, and a stranger hanging on the edge of fate. In the heart of the forest, where moonlight is blocked by thick leaves, Henry follows the trail. He doesn't know what awaits, but the instinct of a man who's survived hell whispers, this is no accident. Then, The wind's howl is cut by another sound, the creak of a taut rope under weight. Atlas whinnies softly, urging Henry to look up. He does, and his world tilts. Hanging between two branches, a frail figure drips blood onto the snow. In that moment, Henry Walker realizes fate has dragged him back to the battlefield in the cruelest way. Who hung this woman in the tree? And why in the one place Henry Walker calls his last safe ground? All right, my dear audience, if you're finding this story gripping, comment the number 1, or I'm still here to keep listening. The wind cuts through the trees, cold as a blade slicing flesh. Moonlight flickers through leaf gaps, illuminating the inverted figure swaying in the air. The body swings, knocking against a dry trunk, creating a rhythmic thud like some grotesque funeral dirge. Henry stands frozen, heart pounding, hands gripping the rifle tightly. Atlas stamps, letting out a low, warning whinny. The woman Henry sees now, she's a young ranger. Her uniform is torn, chest stained with blood, face half covered in snow. The rope binds her ankles, cutting so deep the blood has stopped flowing. Her long hair hangs down, strands coated in frost. But what stops Henry cold is her chest still rising faintly. Fragile, but alive. Oh God, she's still breathing. Henry inhales sharply. The scene drags him back to Fallujah. Comrades hung upside down under a bridge, a terrorist's taunt. The smell of blood in the night air now. It's no different from then. He closes his eyes briefly, then opens them, his gaze turning resolute. He steps closer. His rough hand touches her icy wrist. A pulse, weak, but clear. He scans around. No animal tracks, but the ground is marked with fresh military boot prints, overlapping like a group stood here. Worse, he recognizes the knot, a clean slip knot, tied with military or mercenary precision. Henry kneels, pulling his old dagger from his belt. Atlas moves closer, ears erect, head tilted as if standing guard. As the blade touches the rope, a sharp snap rings out. Instantly, a small explosion erupts from the bushes. Dirt sprays, shrapnel whistles past Henry's ear, embedding into the tree behind him. Atlas rears, neighing loudly. Henry rolls, pulling the woman's body to dodge another blast. He looks down. Near the tree, crude claymore mines, tripwires crisscrossing. Without his old Marine reflexes, he and the girl would be shredded in the snow by now. Damn it. He doesn't say it aloud, but his eyes blaze with fury. This isn't an accident. It's a trap, designed to kill anyone who dares approach. Henry lifts the girl to the ground. Her body is light, almost lifeless. He presses his ear to her mouth, hearing a wheezy breath like wind through rusted pipes. Each inhale is a small battle against the darkness swallowing her. Atlas nudges his shoulder, urging haste. Henry understands they can't stay. The trappers might still be near, watching his every move. They want him to leave her to die, or die with her. But Henry Walker is done turning away from injustice. The past stole his platoon through betrayal. He swore it would never happen again, even for a stranger. He hoists her onto his shoulder, moving quickly to a flat snow clearing. Atlas kneels, letting Henry lay her across its back. The scene is eerie and haunting. An old veteran, a giant horse, and a near-dead woman, three fates intertwined in the dark. Henry grabs the reins, listening. No sound, only the howling wind and his own heartbeat thundering in his chest. He knows this silence is more dangerous than gunfire. The enemy is waiting, patient as wolves stalking prey. As Atlas begins to move, moonlight catches the woman's face. Henry glimpses a thin scar along her left cheek, not a fresh wound. It tells a story. She's no stranger to danger. Unconsciously, Henry feels a faint connection. They're both survivors, both marked by scars that won't fade. But then, as they leave the tree line, Henry spots a red glint in the bushes. A laser dot, thin as a thread, sweeps across his chest and vanishes. No more proof is needed. They're being targeted. Henry digs his knees into Atlas's flanks. The giant horse bolts like an arrow, snow flying white behind them. Henry hunches low, clutching the unconscious woman, his mind fixed on one thought: get her out of this death trap. But a gnawing question torments him, pulsing with every heartbeat. Who set this horrific trap? And why target a ranger who should only know trees and streams, not mercenary executions? Are you still here, dear audience? Take a moment to relax, maybe grab a glass of water, and keep listening to this thrilling tale. Comment the number 1 if you're hooked. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Atlas's hooves pound the snow, urgent as war drums. The giant horse's breaths steam in the icy fog, each puff like gun smoke after a volley. Henry grips the reins, hunching to shield the motionless woman draped across the saddle. Her tangled hair, matted with blood, brushes his arm, chillingly cold. Behind them, an explosion echoes, shaking the forest. Fire flashes in the night, reflecting off the frost. The ground under Atlas's hooves trembles, a second mine detonates. Henry grits his teeth, not looking back. He knows this tactic. The trappers want him in a state of panic, every step like treading on death itself. A bullet grazes his ear, tearing the air. Atlas whinnies, jerking hard, but Henry holds firm. "Run, Atlas!" No words needed, just a knee's nudge, and the horse surges like a whirlwind. Snow sprays, wind lashes Henry's face like a whip. They charge through a narrow gorge, moonlight blocked by steep cliffs. Henry glances up, spotting a red streak flickering on the rocks. A sniper. He's been tracking them from the start. Henry hesitates a beat, then yanks the reins sharply. Atlas understands, veering onto a snow-covered side trail, dodging a hail of bullets that sink into the snow behind. In the chaos, Henry feels the woman's breathing weaken. Her chest rises sparsely, her face pale as stone. He pulls his coat over her, whispering silently, as if commanding his own heart. "Don't die. Not tonight." Atlas thunders across the ice of a shallow creek. The sound echoes crisp and sharp. Henry tenses, the ice could crack. But there's no choice. Behind, an engine hums faintly, not just a sniper. They're using off-road vehicles. They won't let witnesses escape. The sound of tires crunching snow grows closer. Henry pulls the rifle from its holster. Only 3 lead rounds left, pitiful against attackers with assault rifles. But he's survived on less. As headlights flash through the trees, Henry seizes the moment. He twists, firing. Boom! The shot doesn't aim for the driver, but a massive tree by the path. The trunk splinters, crashing across the trail. Engines curse, metal collides, then silence. Henry doesn't wait, urging Atlas forward. The giant horse crosses the creek, charging up a slope. The sky opens, a vast silver expanse of snowy plains. Henry realizes this is their chance to escape, but then a bullet rips through the air, lodging in his shoulder. The jolt staggers him. He clenches his teeth, no groan escaping. Warm blood seeps through his sweater, spreading down his arm. Henry still grips the reins, refusing to let Atlas slow. The horse whinnies fiercely, sensing its master's pain, and runs faster, defying slick snow and gaping ravines on either side. Ahead, golden lights flicker Henry's cabin, their only refuge. He nearly collapses with relief, but then he sees figures move around the porch. They got there first. Another trap. Henry grits his jaw, veering Atlas onto a side trail toward a rocky hill. Darkness swallows them. Wolves howl in the distance, their cries echoing with each step. Atlas keeps running, like a mythic beast untiring. At the hill's crest, Henry looks back. Below, headlights weave, pursuers closing in from all sides. He knows, once caught in this game, there's no retreat. He, the woman, and Atlas are now targets. Henry leans forward, feeling the woman's chest quiver faintly. Another weak breath holds on. Deep down, he knows he's not just saving a life. He's unwittingly challenged those hiding in the dark. And when a former Marine and his giant horse are cornered, the only thing left is the survival instinct that carried him through hell. The wind rises from the north, howling like 1,000 knives tearing through the pines. Snow falls thickly, pellets whipping Henry's face and eyes, as if to blind him. Atlas charges on, its massive body shielding its master and the unconscious woman from the storm. Its hooves slide on fresh ice, sounding like the march of a war drum. Henry hunches low, clutching Claire tightly. Her breaths are so faint he keeps pressing his ear to her chest to ensure her heart still beats. Each weak pulse is a battle, and he knows time is against them. As they crest the final ridge, Henry's cabin emerges, hazy in the snowy blur. A faint golden glow from the oil lamp on the porch shines like a lighthouse in the storm. Henry grits his teeth, urging Atlas one last time. The giant horse gallops into the yard, steam rising in thick clouds, then halts, panting heavily. Henry dismounts, his back screaming from old wounds and the fresh bullet. But he won't collapse. He carries Claire, kicks open the wooden door, and steps into the small, warm room. Inside, the fireplace smolders, casting faint heat. He lays her on a fur rug near the fire, covering her with a thick blanket. Blood has soaked her coat. Henry takes his knife, cuts away the torn fabric, revealing bruises and gashes across her ribs. She was brutally beaten before being strung up. He rummages through a wooden cabinet, pulling out an old military first aid kit. His rough hands clean her wounds, bandage them with gauze, each move precise yet gentle, as if the battlefield medic in him never left. Outside, the storm rages, hurling snow at the windows as if to break through. Inside, only the fires crackle and their heavy breaths fill the silence. Henry kneels beside her, watching every small movement. Her eyelids flutter, then open. Those eyes, exhausted, blurred, but flashing with instinctual wariness, meet his. Henry leans closer, voice hoarse. "You're safe now." Her lips move, voice cracked and faint but clear. "Cole. Betrayed." Henry freezes. The name stabs his memory. Randall Cole, forestry supervisor. Someone Henry met a few times in Jackson. A man of authority, always shaking hands with local officials, his voice commanding like law itself. Henry never liked him, but never linked betrayal to that name. Claire speaks, then faints again. Henry touches her forehead, feeling the heat of fever rising. He pulls a ranger badge from her coat pocket. The firelight reveals Claire Dawson, Bridger Teton National Forest Service, a real ranger. He stares at the badge, then at Atlas, standing silently in the corner, eyes like mountain stone. He feels the weight of silence, as if fate forced him to hear those words. Cole betrayed. Henry rises, walks to the wooden table, pulls out a whiskey bottle. He takes a swig, the burn sliding down his throat, then slumps into a chair, staring into the darkness beyond the window. In his mind, old memories flood back. His platoon betrayed, faces falling in flames. He survived when he shouldn't have. Now fate throws betrayal at him again through a dying woman's lips. Outside, wolves howl, blending with the storm, a mournful chorus. Henry knows this is no coincidence. If Cole is behind this, Claire holds a secret big enough for him to kill for. He looks at the woman under the blanket, then at Atlas. A decision forms, cold but unshakable. From this moment, Henry Walker is no longer a recluse hiding from his past. He's a warrior again, but this time, the battlefield isn't Iraq or Fallujah. It's the forest he calls home. Dear audience, pause here and hit that subscribe button before diving into the heart of the story, but only if you feel connected to what I'm sharing. Drop a comment below. Tell me where you're watching from and what time at Island. It's amazing to see everyone joining us from all over. Morning in Wyoming's valley is never gentle. Sunlight slips through snow-covered ridges, bathing the dark pines in a glow both vibrant and fierce. Henry opens the cabin door, steps out, breathes deeply. White mist escapes his mouth, dissolving into the wind. But in his heart, peace is gone. Last night, Claire whispered two haunting words. Cole betrayed. They've scarred his mind anew. Henry steps back inside, his old eyes scanning the woman lying still under thick blankets. Her breaths are shallow, rapid. He knows makeshift bandages won't hold her long. He kneels, searching her torn coat. In a clumsily sewn lining, his fingers find something hard. He cuts the stitches, pulls out a small, scratched black USB drive. He turns it over, eyes narrowing clearly, no accident. He sits at the table, dragging an old laptop from a shelf. It boots slowly, the screen glowing cold blue. He plugs in the USB. A single encrypted folder appears. Henry tries simple passwords, nothing works. But in one corner, an unlocked file, El Cencio Report Draft. He opens it. Lines of text appear. Detailed lists of logging truck routes, schedules, secret locations. Henry frowns. Claire was tracking something far beyond a ranger's normal duties. Then he sees the name, Randall Cole. Beside it, a note. Route manager, ties to cartel. Henry pushes back the chair, heart racing. He recalls meeting Cole always in a clean suit, preaching nature conservation to town crowds with a commanding voice. But the screen's numbers tell another truth. He's running illegal shipments, not just timber but unidentified cargo code any veteran knows means drugs or weapons. Henry shuts the laptop, sitting motionless. The wind screams through the door cracks, but the real noise is in his head, memories of wartime traitors. He lost his platoon to a turncoat officer's coordinates. Now, betrayal echoes again, threatening not just a woman's life but the purity of the land he chose for refuge. A hoarse cough snaps him back. Claire stirs, opening her eyes. Henry kneels beside her. She tries to sit, but he stops her. Don't. He holds a cup to her lips, helping her sip. As her breathing steadies, she whispers, I followed Cole for months. He hides smuggling in ranger reports, uses the national forest as a secret route. Henry says nothing, locking eyes with her. His gaze makes her pause, as if ensuring he understands. If he knows the USB exists, he'll kill anyone holding it. You shouldn't get involved. Henry gives a wry, crooked smile familiar with the scent of blood. Too late. He stands, steps to the window. Outside, the blizzard has calmed, but heavy clouds signal more trouble. He knows Cole won't stop. Once Claire's absence hits the reports, they'll hunt her down. And when they find the USB missing, they'll know someone else touched their secret. Atlas nudges the stable door outside, impatient. Henry looks at the giant horse, then back at Claire. If I'm right, they'll come tonight, and we'll need to be ready. Claire closes her eyes, breathing heavily. Despite her pain, her fleeting glance shows the resolve of a young warrior who's never surrendered. Henry knows, in this moment, he has no choice but to stand with her against an enemy not just cunning but shielded by legal power. Henry tucks the USB into his coat pocket. In his gray eyes, the cold light of a veteran returned from hell reignites. He doesn't know how this fight will end, but one thing is certain. If Cole wants to silence Claire, he'll have to go through Henry Walker and his giant horse. Night falls over Wyoming like a thick, cold black curtain. The snow stops, but an eerie stillness makes every forest creature hesitate. Henry sits motionless by the fireplace, rifle across his knees. Claire lies wrapped in blankets in the corner, her breathing quicker, face beaded with feverish sweat. Outside in the stable, Atlas stamps rhythmically, the sound like warning drums. The giant horse senses what's coming. Then, at midnight, the cabin's lights go out. Darkness swallows the room, only the fire's red glow flickering on the wooden walls. Henry isn't surprised. He's lived long enough to recognize this power, cut a prelude to an ambush. The heavy rumble of a truck engine echoes from afar, steady, cold. The wind carries the sharp smell of diesel and gunpowder. Henry stands, gripping the rifle. In his gray eyes, the firelight glints like molten steel. "Atlas," he whispers, like calling a comrade. The horse whinnies softly, tossing its head. Henry opens the stable door. Atlas steps out, steam puffing from its nostrils, muscles rippling under moonlight. It looks more like a war machine than a horse. Headlights flash, sweeping the yard. 4 trucks surround the cabin. Armed figures dismount, carrying assault rifles, moving in tight formation. Henry recognizes their stance: mercenaries, not amateur thugs. And leading them, behind a truck's windshield, he glimpses Cole's face, cold, expressionless. A voice shouts, "Hand over the girl, or you both die." Claire moans softly inside. Henry grits his teeth. They think he'll cower, but they've forgotten. A Marine who survived Fallujah doesn't bow. He loads his last 2 lead rounds, cocks the rifle. "All right," he mutters. "If they want war, they'll get war." Henry's first shot doesn't aim at a person. He fires at a headlight, shattering the blinding light, restoring darkness to the yard. Immediately, gunfire erupts, tearing the air. Wood splinters, glass shatters. Claire flattens herself, hands over her head. Atlas roars, charging into the night. Its massive body slams a mercenary, tossing him like a leaf. The crack of breaking bones echoes. The others fire wildly, but Atlas moves impossibly fast, toppling a truck, tilting it onto its side. Henry ducks behind a wall, returning fire. 1 man falls, snow-stained red, but he knows his ammo won't last. The mercenaries will encircle, tighten the noose, and no one will escape. Then, from afar, a howl rises. 1, 2, then a chorus. The wolf pack, drawn by blood, circles in. Golden eyes gleam in the dark, dozens of them. They prowl, howling, turning the forest into a theater of death. The cartel falters. The wolves don't care whose prey, blood is everywhere. 1 man screams, turning his gun on the darkness. A wolf leaps, tearing his throat in a choked cry. The night descends into chaos. Henry seizes the moment, pulling Claire from the bed. He supports her, whispering, "Hold on. We have to go." Claire, exhausted, bites her lip, nodding weakly. Atlas appears, eyes blazing, body bloodied but standing tall. Henry lifts Claire onto its back, climbing up behind. "Run!" he shouts. Atlas bolts, weaving through gunfire, through wolves tearing at the cartel. Its whinny rips the night, like a battle horn. They break free, plunging into the pitch-black forest. Behind, fire rises from the overturned truck, mingling with screams, shots, and howls. The valley becomes a chaotic battlefield. Henry hunches low, holding Claire. She opens her eyes, whispering, "You shouldn't do this for me." Henry shakes his head, eyes sharp as knives. "Not for you, for justice, and because traitors must pay." Atlas charges on, its breaths like a living engine. The giant horse is no longer a pet, it's a comrade, a steel warrior, pulling Claire and Henry from hell. But Henry knows, this is only the prelude. Cole won't quit, and after this night, nowhere in Wyoming is safe. Wyoming's dawn rises like a thin slash across the sky. Weak light filters through cold mist, tinting the hills in pale steel. Henry, Claire, and Atlas halt by a shallow gorge. 3 souls: a veteran, a wounded ranger, a giant horse exhausted after a night of flight. Claire leans against a rock, her face pale but her eyes brightening. The feverish sweat has stopped, her breathing steadier. Henry hands her water, then stands, scanning the valley below. In the distance, truck lights flicker, moving like ants. Cole hasn't given up. Henry turns to Atlas. The horse stands tall, puffing steam, black eyes glinting with vigilance. It stamps, as if saying, "We haven't lost." Henry nods, touching its neck lightly. In that brief moment, he feels he's not alone. Claire's hoarse voice breaks the silence. "You don't understand. Cole isn't just smuggling timber. He uses these forest routes for the cartel. Drugs, weapons, all pass through here. That USB holds the proof. If I die, he buries everything." Henry looks at her, eyes cold but resolute. "Then we won't let you die, and we won't let him keep betraying." The engine noise grows closer. Henry grips his rifle, checking it. One bullet left. One shot for an uneven fight. He breathes deeply. Fallujah taught him, when all is against you, grit and loyalty are the last weapons. The ground shakes as the trucks enter the gorge. Black armored figures leap out, rifles raised, moving like a wolf pack. Then, from a sleek SUV, Randall Cole steps out. Black suit, neat tie, he stands in the snow like it's his office. "Walker!" His voice echoes, mocking. "Just give her up. I'll let you and that horse walk away. You're too old to die for nothing." Henry doesn't answer. He positions Claire safely behind Atlas, then grips the reins. An old man, a giant horse facing an army of guns. But his eyes hold no fear. Cole raises a hand. Gunfire erupts, bullets striking rock, plowing snow. Atlas whinnies, leaping forward, its massive body crashing into the cartel's line. Two men topple, guns flying. Henry fires his last shot. It hits a sniper aiming at Claire, dropping him. But then, a deafening blast. A cartel grenade explodes in front of them. Shrapnel flies, Henry's ears ring. As his vision clears, Cole aims a pistol at his chest. In that instant, Atlas charges. The giant horse barrels forward, taking the bullet meant for Henry. It embeds in its flank. Atlas screams, a heart-wrenching cry, but doesn't fall. It charges again, knocking Cole into the snow, his gun flying. Henry staggers, watching blood pour from Atlas's gray side onto the white snow. His heart twists. For years, Atlas wasn't just a friend, it was the last piece of his life. Now it's sacrificing itself for him. Claire, despite her weakness, crawls to Cole's dropped gun. Trembling, she aims it at him. "It's over, Cole. You won't kill anyone else." Cole laughs. A cold laugh of someone used to power. "You think one gun and a dying old man can bring down a system?" Henry lunges, punching Cole's face, dropping him into the snow. He kneels beside Atlas, hands shaking as he touches the wound. The horse's eyes meet his. Deep, without regret, only absolute loyalty. "You've fought enough," Henry whispers. But Atlas, instead of falling, struggles to its feet, stomping hard, as if declaring it won't quit. The sight makes Claire and the remaining mercenaries freeze. Before them isn't an animal, but a warrior of flesh and bone. Henry rises, grabbing Cole's fallen gun. He aims at the traitor's head. In that moment, Fallujah floods back, screams. Smoke, blood. He could pull the trigger, end it all. But he lowers the gun. "Death's too easy for you," he growls. "You'll live and face justice." Claire nods, eyes resolute. They bind Cole with rope from Atlas's saddle. The horse, still bleeding, stands like a fortress, eyes fixed on the traitor. The battle subsides, but the air reeks of gunpowder and blood. Henry knows this victory is just the start. Cole's system remains, and they've ignited a fire of vengeance. He turns to Claire, nodding slightly. "Now, we bring him to the light, and we'll never let betrayal happen again." Snow melts slowly in the Bridger-Teton Valley, revealing muddy brown earth and lingering red stains from the fight. The click of handcuffs locking around Randall Cole's wrists rings sharply, like an early verdict. Claire, still in pain, holds the gun until he's fully restrained. Henry stands beside, hand on Atlas's shoulder, feeling the horse's faint tremors from its bleeding wound. Atlas doesn't fall. The giant horse stands proud, bloodied but with coal-black eyes still defiant. Witnesses, rangers, Claire called for backup. Townsfolk drawn by the gunfire stand silent, awestruck. They see something beyond reason. A horse, not just a mount, but a comrade in a fight for truth. Cole is hauled to Jackson. News spreads like wildfire. Local papers scream, "Forestry supervisor, linked to cartel." Shocking evidence from National Forest. The USB Claire hid becomes the ultimate weapon. Its data routes, transactions, shadow ledgers shatters Cole's polished facade. At the first trial, Cole sits in prison garb, silent amid police barriers. His eyes remain cold, fearless. He knows he's just a cog in a larger machine, one he believes will shield him. Claire takes the stand, bandaged but upright, voice clear. "This man didn't just betray me. He betrayed the land we call home." Henry sits in the back, watching quietly. He doesn't trust courts or speeches, but hearing Claire, he sees her transformation from a victim hung in the forest to a witness, a warrior, a symbol of resilience. Atlas isn't allowed in court, but outside, hundreds gather with signs, banners, photos of the giant horse charging through the cartel's line. Social media dubs it the Iron Horse of Wyoming. People paint it, sculpt it, turning Atlas into a living legend, a symbol of loyalty and courage. Atlas's wound is treated by a vet. The bullet leaves a long scar on its flank, but it remains strong. When the wound heals, Henry leads it to a meadow, untying the reins. Atlas stands still, then suddenly gallops into the forest. Henry watches, heart aching, believing it will return because their bond isn't leather, but blood. Weeks later, under a full moon, familiar hoofbeats echo before the cabin. Atlas returns, not as a own beast, but a comrade choosing to stay. Henry stands silent, eyes stinging, his trembling hand touching its neck. In that moment he knows he's found the last of his family. Claire recovers slowly, her spirit fiercer than ever. She proposes a program, the Dead Echo Mustang Project, pairing rangers with trained horses for deep forest patrols, rescues, and smuggling prevention. It gains support, partly for its practicality, partly because Atlas's name has touched hearts. Henry initially refuses. He believes he's too old for another war. But Claire insists, "No one knows this forest like you. No one can lead us better." Finally, he nods, not to be a hero, but to protect the only land that still gives him faith. One early spring morning, on a Bridger Teton trail, a sight burns into memory. Claire in a new uniform, riding beside Henry, both atop Atlas. Sunlight breaks through the ridges, illuminating three warriors, one old, one young, one giant striding into the forest. Locals say that from that day, whenever wolves howl at night, Atlas's heavy hooves answer from afar, a reminder that this land has guardians, not just by law, but by loyalty and strength beyond reason. Henry Walker, Claire Dawson, and Atlas, they didn't seek glory, but fate bound them, and in blood and blizzard, they became legend. A story whispered around Wyoming campfires. A steel horse saved a life, and with it, revived a land betrayed. As snow melts and spring returns, people still speak of that stormy night where an old veteran, a young ranger, and a giant horse wrote a legend. Atlas is no longer just a horse, it's a symbol of loyalty, opposing the cold betrayal Cole sowed. Claire is no longer the victim hung in the forest, she's risen, turning pain into power. And Henry, the man who thought he lived only to await death, found a new reason to exist. This story reminds us, betrayal can destroy a platoon. a community. But loyalty from a man or a horse can save a life, even change a land. But is this the end? Cole faces trial, but behind him lies a vast shadow network. If that machine strikes back, Henry, Claire, and Atlas will face a fiercer war, one that threatens not just Wyoming. If you believe this story isn't over, leave a comment below. What do you think awaits Henry, Claire, and Atlas in Part 2? Share this video to spread Wyoming's legend. And don't forget to subscribe, you won't want to miss their next journey.